Today, I'm going to be making Cheerwine chicken out on the Weber Rotisserie. What is Cheerwine chicken? I think that's a logical question to ask. Cheerwine is a soda. I think it's made in North Carolina, and I was completely unfamiliar with it until a viewer asked me a question about it about a month or so ago. So I went looking for some, found a local supplier, and I gotta tell you, I really love it because it reminds me of a black cherry soda that I had when I was a kid. And I also found out that you can make a terrific barbecue sauce out of it. Now, there are a lot of recipes for barbecue sauce made from Cheerwine. Some of my viewers sent theirs in to me, and I looked at all of them, and I kind of came up with my own, put a few things in it that I like. So let's head over to the stove and make this barbecue sauce because we have to get that done and chilled down before we can get our chicken out on the rotisserie. So the main ingredient of our Cheerwine barbecue sauce is Cheerwine. If you can't get Cheerwine in your area, black cherry soda will substitute for this just perfectly. And we're going to be using 24 ounces of this today. For me, that's 2 bottles. Just love the color of this. We're also going to add 10 ounces of molasses. And we'll just stand here for a day and a half while this finishes pouring out. Next ingredient, 2½ cups of just plain old ketchup. 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Oh, look at that fizz. 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar. 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic. 1/2 teaspoon of cracked black pepper. And 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Let's give this a mix. Now we're going to turn our heat on to medium-high because we're going to want to bring this up to a boil. I almost forgot one ingredient. 2 tablespoons of mustard. You could use yellow mustard. I'm using sort of a spicy brown mustard. A couple good squirts will do. Let me get my whisk in here. You'll notice I didn't add any salt because we're going to adjust for salt after we come to that boil and we start cooling just to kind of see if we need to add anything. All right, so we're getting close to coming to a boil here. I just want to make sure I keep giving this good stirs in here and whisking it. A lot of sugar in here, you don't want it to burn. And we just want to get this to a low boil, not a big old frothing rolling boil. So as soon as we start seeing a lot of bubbles here and we're getting close, we're going to turn this down and we're going to simmer this. All right, that's looking good. We're going to turn this down now. We're going to bring ourselves down to a simmer. So really quick, I want to get a taster to see if we do need to adjust for salt. That is a nice, tangy, sweet barbecue sauce. This is going to be great on our chicken. All right, I'm going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes. Then we're going to let it cool. Then it's going in the refrigerator, so it's ready for our chicken later. So while our Cheerwine barbecue sauce is cooling off in the refrigerator, we have to get our chickens ready. What I'm working with here today are 2 5-pound chickens. Now they're going to be getting a nice glaze of that barbecue sauce a little bit later in the cooking process. First, I want to get a nice dry seasoning on them. And today what I'm going to be using for that is It's Incredible from Heaven Made Products. So I want to get just a nice little coating on these chickens, the legs, get the wings, flip them over. Yeah, you don't want to neglect the back because on a rotisserie, every side gets some great cooking, some great color, and can have great flavor. Back over here. Just double check for any missed spots. All right, time to get this on the spit. So because we're going to have 2 birds on this spit today, I like to use a little bit of a different method to hold them in place. If you've seen my previous videos with 2 birds on the rotisserie, you've already seen this, but I want to show it. So first thing, we're going to get our spit through this way. And right about at this point, I'm going to put a double fork facing the opposite direction. That may seem counterintuitive, but trust me. So we want to make sure first now that we get this chicken down on this fork here. So that's got a nice solid hold now. So this fork now, we're gonna push in as far as we can, and we're just gonna tighten down the set screw on it. Now we come in with the other double fork facing the opposite direction. This we're going to make sure we get into our first chicken from this side. Nice and tight in there. Tighten that set screw down. Now we're gonna go ahead, come through our second chicken. Get that nice and tight in there on that first fork. So you can see they're kind of tail to tail here. Then on the opposite side here, we're gonna bring in our other quad fork and shove that in there and tighten it down. So it holds our chickens just like that. They're not gonna slide back and forth on the spit. And now before I tie the legs and wings so they're secure and don't flop around, I just wanna see how balanced we are here. So I'm gonna lift this up, rotate it. That's not too bad. A little bit bottom heavy, but that's kind of expected when you have two chickens. Now you can reverse them, have one go one way, one go the other, where the breast is up here and the back is up here. But I find this works okay once they're trussed up. So I've got a piece of string here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tie these two legs together. I'm gonna come across the other side, and do the same thing. There. And then what I'd like to do is come all the way under and tie it back to this first set of legs. That will keep your legs from flopping around as the rotisserie turns. See here, just like that. Gonna cut off this excess piece of string. Now for the wings, you can tie those also, and I have in the past, but this time I'm just gonna tuck them back up under the backside. They may come a little bit loose, but we'll deal with that if we need to. All right, this is looking good. Let's get it out to the Weber Kettle Rotisserie. All right, so our kettle temp you can see is 427, which is higher than I want it to be. I'm shooting for about a 375 range today. That'll come down once we get the chickens on and adjust our vents. Now I have the kettle set up with 2 briquette baskets, some foil in the center to catch any excessive drips, and I have my ambient temperature probe poking through the silicone grommet which I installed to allow a better temperature reading in the rotisserie ring. So let's go ahead and get our chicken on. Let's fire the rotisserie up. Want to get a piece of cherry in here for a little bit of smoke today. All right, let's go ahead and get our lid on and let these birds start smoking. So my upper vent I have set in about the half open position. And my bottom vent I have set in the 1/3 open position. So it's a little bit of a rainy day today. I have the canopy up out back here to rotisserie. You might hear some construction sounds going on. There's some remodeling going on next door. But we're gonna push through the weather and the sounds and everything, and we're gonna have some great chicken today. Now, I'm gonna let this go for about 45 minutes before I check the internal temperature. As always, the ultimate internal temperature we're shooting for with chicken is 165 degrees. But in 45 minutes or so, that's about the time I'm gonna start looking at the internal temperature and deciding, is it time to glaze this bird with some of that Cheerwine BBQ sauce? Maybe if we're in the 100 to 130 degree range, I might do it then. So I'll bring you back in 45 minutes when it's time to check these chickens. All right, we've been going for about 45 minutes. Let's have a look at this chicken and check the temperature. Good color on these. Let's go ahead and stop our rotisserie when we get to the right position. Remember, this is just to gauge about how far we are. Let's see, let's get down in the breast up here. So that breast, I don't know if you can see that, it's showing 116. I'm gonna check the thigh on the opposite chicken. And that thigh is showing about 130. So we've got maybe 30 to 45 minutes left on these birds. So what I'm gonna do in about 5 or 10 minutes is I'm gonna put that Cheerwine BBQ sauce glaze on here. So for right now, we're just gonna let them keep cooking for another 5 to 10 minutes. All right, we've been going about another 8 minutes. I think it's time to glaze these chickens. Great thing about a rotisserie is you can glaze every side as it turns. Oh, Get this nice Cheerwine barbecue sauce on here. Don't want to miss any crevices here. That is looking good. All right, let's go ahead and get our lid on and let these birds finish up. I'm gonna check them in about 25 minutes. All right, we've been going another 20 minutes or so. Let's give our chicken a check and see how the temperature's doing. Very good looking birds. All right, this time I'm gonna check the breast over on this one. That's showing about 140. I wanna check the thigh. That's showing 147. Yeah, so we've got about 25 degrees or so to go on these. Let's get them spinning again and get the lid back on, let them finish up. I'm guessing another 20 minutes. See you back here in about 20 minutes. All right, I kind of lost track of time a little bit. I think we've been going about an hour and 45 minutes. So let's give this a check now. We probably are pretty close to done. Those are some juicy birds. Look at that. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle of them dripping. All right, let's stop it and give a check. Let's get a little check on our breast here. That is looking good, 166. All right, and our thigh is showing 168. All right, I'm gonna get these off, get them inside, and we're gonna have a taste. All right, here is one of our Cheerwine chickens just off the rotisserie about 10 minutes ago. It's been resting for about 10 minutes. Got to say, the deep red color of this really comes through, and I think a lot of it has to do with that Cheerwine soda. There was such a deep red color, if you remember when I poured that into the pan, and I just cannot wait to cut into this. But first, this is a barbecue chicken, and when I make barbecue chicken, a lot of the times I don't just glaze it out on the rotisserie or the grill. I like to put some barbecue sauce on it right before you cut into it, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna take some more of this Cheerwine barbecue sauce and brush it on here. And if we get messy, we get messy. It's barbecue chicken. It's generally not gonna be a clean meal if you're picking it up and eating it, but that's part of the fun. And now let's cut into it. I wanna cut into this breast meat. Let me turn it this way here. Oh yeah, that looks good. Nice and juicy. Hopefully you can see that. Let me slide this back a bit. That is looking really, really good. Let me set that piece aside here. I've said it before, on chickens, turkeys, my favorite piece is some of that thigh meat, so let's cut into that. Let's go ahead and separate this guy right here. Separated, and we're gonna go ahead and cut. I've done enough cutting. It's time to taste. All right, I'm going for a piece of that breast meat first for tasting. It is super juicy, as I can tell you when I cut that, and on the fork here, so let's see. That Cheerwine sauce has a really, really good flavor on here. The rub we used, it's incredible from Heaven Made Products. Great flavor. That's sort of that initial flavor that penetrates here and gets into the meat when you do that dry rub. And this glaze at the end and that little extra sauce just now is just sort of like the frosting on the cake. The skin is not rubbery. It's not crispy. You're generally not going to get that when you're saucing a chicken like this. You could take it to a state of crispiness and then sauce it. The problem there is you end up almost always getting into a dry state in some of the chicken, especially the breast meat. So as long as it's not rubbery to me and bites through well, that's what I like. And now, the thigh meat. I just love thigh meat. I've said it so many times, chicken, turkey, it's juicy. You have more fat there, more flavor. Let's see. That is some terrific chicken right there. Really good flavors all around. And the thigh meat just sort of enhances it. Gives you that extra punch of flavor from within. And here I've got a piece of that thigh meat and skin with some extra sauce on it. It's dripping everywhere, but I want blah, 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 blah. I just dipped it in the sauce. I want a whole bunch of that sauce here. Let's see. There really is that memory for me of black cherry soda in this Cheerwine barbecue sauce. I mentioned before that was one of my favorite drinks when I was a kid. and it really comes through that Cheerwine soda. And for me, that's just an added benefit. So if you're a Cheerwine fan, I'd recommend trying to make some of this barbecue sauce. And if you're not a Cheerwine fan or you don't have access to it, like I said, black cherry, you can use that to make sauce. There's a lot of sodas you can use to make sauce, so give it a shot. It really goes well on things like chicken.